Weddings are meant to be joyful celebrations, but what happens when a bride's seemingly clear instructions lead to a sea of perfectly compliant, yet utterly disappointing, guests? This isn't a story about a wardrobe malfunction or a guest trying to upstage the bride. It's about a well-intentioned dress code that backfired, leaving everyone in a muted palette of confusion and the bride wishing for a splash of color she explicitly forbade. The curious case of the colorless wedding. The invitation arrived, a harbinger of celebration and, for the fashion-conscious guest, a directive for appropriate attire. Under the heading dress code, a clear and concise instruction: please wear neutral tones, think beige, cream, soft grey, taupe, or dusty rose. Let the flowers bring the color. For you and many others, this was a charming and elegant concept. It painted a picture of a sophisticated event where the vibrant hues of the floral arrangements would pop against a serene backdrop of subtly dressed guests. The consensus among your group was clear: the bride desired a specific, muted aesthetic. A sea of serenity. The wedding day dawned, a beautiful outdoor affair. The simplicity of the decorations complemented the natural setting, promising a relaxed and enjoyable experience. As guests arrived, a visual testament to their adherence to the dress code unfolded. A palette of soft beiges, delicate creams, understated tans, champagne, and dusty pinks dominated the gathering. You, in your soft beige jumpsuit, fit seamlessly into this elegantly muted tableau. There was a collective sense of having honored the bride's wishes, contributing to the harmonious atmosphere she had seemingly envisioned. The guests, dressed in their carefully chosen neutral ensembles, presented a picture of understated sophistication, ready to witness and celebrate the union. It was a visually cohesive gathering, exactly as the written instructions suggested it should be. The quiet elegance of the attire allowed the natural beauty of the surroundings and the subtle decorative elements to take center stage, creating a calm and inviting ambience that seemed perfectly aligned with the chill vibe of the event. The cracks in the canvas. The reception began with the usual joyful mingling and celebratory atmosphere. Then came the toasts, a time for heartfelt words, shared memories, and often, a touch of humor. When the bride took the microphone, a ripple of anticipation went through the room. Her words started jovially enough, but then took an unexpected turn. "I thought you guys would surprise me with a few pops of color, but I guess everyone really listened," she remarked, a playful jab that landed with an audible thud. The resultant laughter was more awkward than amused, a nervous titter that betrayed the underlying confusion in the room. It was clear to many that her disappointment, though cloaked in humor, was genuine. This wasn't the light-hearted jest it was perhaps intended to be. It was a candid expression of unmet expectations. The seeds of doubt were sown. Had everyone truly understood the dress code? Or had they, in their diligent adherence, missed a crucial unspoken cue? The initial joy of being appropriately dressed began to curdle into a vague unease. This feeling intensified when, later in the evening, you overheard the bride speaking to a friend, her words cutting through the celebratory chatter. "It looks like everyone is dressed for a funeral." The comment, intended perhaps as a private vent, landed like a public indictment, solidifying the growing discomfort among those who heard it. The casual observation transformed the previously elegant sea of neutrals into something mournful in her eyes, casting a shadow over the good intentions of her guests. The post-wedding puzzle. In the days following the wedding, the dress code debacle became a topic of quiet discussion among mutual acquaintances. The consensus was clear: the bride was indeed annoyed. The narrative circulating was that she had expected a more vibrant visual, that she had hoped guests would interpret her request for neutrals as a gentle suggestion rather than a strict mandate. The idea of surprising her with pops of color seemed to be the underlying desire she'd harbored, a desire completely at odds with her explicit written instructions. This presented a significant disconnect. As you rightly pointed out, her invitation didn't offer optional neutrals. It was a direct request, listing specific shades to guide guests. There was no ambiguity in the phrasing. It was a directive, not an open invitation for creative interpretation. The frustration among guests was palpable. Many had invested time and money in selecting outfits that precisely matched her stated theme. To then be subtly, or not so subtly, chided for following instructions felt unfair and, frankly, a bit ungracious. It was a classic case of uncommunicated expectations leading to disappointment, not on the part of the guests, but on the part of the person who set the parameters. The unwritten rules of wedding etiquette. This situation highlights a fundamental tension in wedding planning: the balance between a couple's vision and clear communication with their guests. On one hand, it's understandable that a bride and groom have a specific aesthetic in mind for their special day. They dream of how the photos will look, how the ambience will feel, and how every element will contribute to their perfect memory. On the other hand, guests are not mind-readers. They rely on the information provided to them, and when that information is explicit, they are expected to adhere to it. The bride's desire for pops of color was a valid one, but it was a desire that should have been translated into a clear and actionable dress code. If she wanted guests to incorporate vibrant accents, she could have phrased it as "please wear neutral tones with an optional pop of color," or even "we encourage guests to wear neutral tones, feel free to add a colorful accessory." Such phrasing would have given guests the agency to express themselves while still aligning with her overall vision. Instead, her chosen wording inadvertently set up a scenario where compliance was met with disappointment, creating an awkward and uncomfortable dynamic. The aftermath of awkwardness. While the incident certainly didn't derail the wedding itself, it left a lingering taste of awkwardness for many attendees. For guests who genuinely tried their best to honor the bride's wishes, her passive-aggressive comments felt like a gentle reprimand. It undermined the effort they had put into selecting their outfits and created an unnecessary moment of tension in what should have been a purely joyful occasion. It's a reminder that clear communication is paramount, especially when it comes to guiding guest behavior. When a host sets a rule, they must be prepared for guests to follow it and to appreciate their efforts in doing so. To express disappointment when guests adhere to stated instructions is not only confusing but can also be perceived as ungrateful. In the grand scheme of a wedding, a dress code miscommunication might seem minor. However, it's these small details that can impact the overall guest experience. Your coworker's wedding, while overall lovely and chill, was undeniably marred by this one peculiar incident. It serves as a gentle lesson for future hosts. Articulate your desires clearly, and be prepared to embrace the outcome when your guests diligently follow your lead. After all, the spirit of celebration should always outweigh the rigidity of a potentially misunderstood aesthetic vision. Conclusion. Ultimately, the wedding was a success in its core purpose. Two people got married, surrounded by loved ones. Yet, this seemingly minor sartorial misstep left a more lasting impression than one might expect. It served as a potent, albeit awkward, reminder that even the most meticulously planned events can fall prey to the subtle nuances of communication. For the guests, it was a lesson in the sometimes unpredictable nature of expectations, and perhaps a quiet confirmation that adherence to clear instructions isn't always met with the desired appreciation. For the bride, one hopes it offered a valuable insight, that if you truly desire a specific vision, it must be articulated with unambiguous clarity. Because when it comes to guiding your guests, what you explicitly ask for is precisely what you'll get, even if it leaves you wishing for a pop of color you never quite managed to convey. The beautiful irony being, of course, that the very chill vibe she cultivated was, in part, due to her guests taking her instructions to heart, creating a calm, cohesive backdrop that perhaps she hadn't truly visualized when penning those fateful words, "Let the flowers bring the color."